the hospital of where I work in. It's in center town of Wiesbaden. We have 14 operation theaters. Not as nice I have seen yesterday in Hanoi. It's much more narrow. We have 50 beds, but there are internal medicine, there are other faculties inside. You want to translate? Yeah, I understand. Okay. This Wiesbaden is a nice city, about 270,000 people, and very close to Frankfurt Airport. It's only about 25 kilometers, and the German emperor used to have his summer holidays there until 1917. And you see this is surrounded by forests, by the Rhine River, and it's a wine area, so it's a nice place to live. And we are a group of 14 surgeons. This one? It's too loud, or okay? Okay. A group of 14 surgeons. We have 3 female surgeons, and we cover the whole field of orthopedic surgery. Beside the spine, for the spine, we have a separate unit. Yeah. And the numbers go up. You see here in 2017, we have 4,300 inpatient surgeries, but we have also outpatient surgery, not mentioned here. And if you see here, we have a lot of hips. We have in total 1,381 at that time. Now we are about more than 14,000 hips. So this is one of our main topics, but we also do a lot of simultaneous bilateral hips. More than 140 now a year. We'll talk about this later on. And we also do the revisions. You see the septic and aseptic revisions. And we also, what we use mainly is a short stem. If you see here, we use 1,200 short stems, but we also use cemented stems in indication of poor bone quality in trauma cases. There are still indication also in our hospital for cemented implants. And one back, you see also that we nowadays the Optimys is our standard cup. Yeah. We do a lot of knee joints also. I heard in your country you have more, due to the scooters, you have more knee joint replacement surgery than hips. In our country, we don't have so much scooters, so it's different. Nowadays, we are about 650 a year of the knee joints. And also we do these exchange operations for a knee joint. And we do cover the whole field of traumas. So I don't want to go in details. Do the foot surgery. We do arthroscopic surgeries, and there's a big move from the knee joint to the shoulder now. The reconstruction of the rotary cup and things like this, but also in the replacement surgery. Yeah. And this is the entrance of the hospital. So this is one of my favorite talks because I'm one of the 2 developers of Optimys. So this is a home run for me. It's an idea and development of the Optimys. When we started, we already had experience in the short stems. So we used at that time, since 2006, the Mayo system from Rochester, from the United States. We do this Meta system for the German company Espelab, Nanos also from Smith & Nephew. And we started Optimys, the first implantation was in 2010. And meanwhile, we have over 12 million Optimys short stems implanted in our hospitals. So we are a center for this type of surgery. Maybe the microphone is too strong. It's okay, okay. So if you want to make something new, why you should do this if you want to solve existing problems, and you should take care not to create other problems. And nowadays all innovations has to be cost effective. So the reasons why we developed new STEM were these problems addressed here. We want to have a reliable in different anatomic situation to restore the natural anatomy. We had the aim to reduce the problem of periprosthetic fractures and get an improvement in function and to reduce the operative morbidity. And for this modern concept of rehabilitation, you need implants that allow initial full weight bearing. So when we started in 2010, there were always 19 different short stems available in Germany. And what happened? A lot of them went out of the market because they didn't fulfill the expectations. And finally, this, I call them the neck partial preserving Kalgar guided implants. They are still on the market, yeah, because they work better than the other designs. And even now I heard that Meta and Fitma also one day will go away. Yeah. So the problems we had seen which made our experience was that these implants, the Mayo and the Meta, they made unintentional valgization during surgery. So when we saw the preoperative planning and the postoperative result, in average, they made in this study 6 degrees of valgization. What means that the leg got longer and we reduced the offset, which is not the aim because we want to restore the natural anatomy. And we think this happened because the design was like this, that on the medial, on the side, they were straight. And if something is straight, it can tilt. And so the idea was not to make something straight in a new design. And we used also this nano stem, which worked quite well, but it was too bulky. So what happened often that we had some small cracks in the proximal part, and we saw that we should change also this design. So what we did, we overlaid 100 X-rays electronically, and then we looked at which is the compromise of the proximal femur anatomy. And then the engineer, they made technically 3 circles, different diameter from proximal to distal. So this was important for the design on the medial part of this prosthesis. And then we did electronically preoperative planning and optimized on the computer the design of this implant. And you have to know that in this, for example, by reaming the cup, you reduce the offset about 5 millimeters. And you have to compensate this by the stem so that the offset of the hip remains the same, that we have the natural history. And so this design was created by these steps. And the interesting thing is, once the first piece of metal had been produced, there was no change further on. It was all designed electronically, and so there were, since 2010 to now, and also in future, there won't be any change in the design of this implant. But we saw, because this is very popular already in Japan, that we needed not only the 12 sizes in Europe, but also two additional sizes for Asian people, because the Asian people are smaller and the dimensions are different. And so this is a scaling. If you use an implant, you must know how the scaling is working. For example, the neck length from one size to the other is increasing about 1.4 millimeter. And we saw with a lot of preoperative planning, to be very precise, we need two different offsets. And in Asian people, I think most of them, they use only the standard. But in our population, we also need quite a lot of lateralized versions. And the lateralization in this implant is only 5 millimeters. Why? In high offset situation, as I explained from the talk you gave, you keep part of the neck and you have a bony reconstruction of the offset. Okay. So then we made the same study again and published it with the Optimys after the first 100 implantations, and then we said there was no change compared with the preoperative planning. So no tilting like we have seen with the other implants. And then there's a bright German surgeon. He had the brilliant idea to make preoperative planning with all the existing short stems. And for this he used a valgus hip, a varus hip, and a hip with an average CCD angle. And we see this is the difference in millimeter. And you see out of this 19 designs, only 5 fulfilled high precision, and the biggest precision was the Optimys. So we can restore with these varus hips, valgus hips, and average CCD angles. So we are happy to see that. And we have different options to restore. If you look at, these are two totally different hips. In the upper hip, you see is a valgus hip. We cut the neck down, and it looks a little bit like you know it from a straight stem. But in the high offset situation, we keep part of the neck, and we have a bony reconstruction of the offset. So in this type of surgery, it's very important to do the preoperative planning. Yeah? And also very important, if you look on the lateral size dimension planning, you see the anatomy is given by the proximal part of the femur. When you compare this with a straight stem, the orientation is the diaphysis. So the diaphysis, what makes it, if you have some anteversion of the proximal femur, you get a translation error. And this translation error is critical because this makes your hip easier to luxate. If you restore the natural anatomy with a short stem, which is orientated in the proximal femur, you don't have this translation error. And so with a combination of preoperative planning and a short stem like Optimys, the frequency of luxation is maybe 1 to 300, 400, 500. So the problem of luxation gets very little. Yeah? So this is an important thing you have to consider for the choice of your implant. So Swiss surgeon, he looked, checked the length and offset, pre-op and post-op, and he saw what we had already seen in our design, that this is Optimys Vitamys, that the cup has a medialization about 4 millimeter in average. And the Optimys made about 5 millimeters plus offset. So in total, there was nearly 100%, only 1.4 millimeter difference to the natural anatomy. So if you go, okay. So this is registry of the second hospital involved in the development of the Optimys. And they have an internal registry. Registries get more and more important. We have now registry that are mandatory, like New Zealand, Switzerland. So all clinics have to report their results to these registries. In Germany, we also now have a big registry. Christian Hein will speak about the results of the registry, because the registry has a big advantage that you have no influence as in the results. So everybody can look up in the internet and see the results of different implants. And nobody has an influence on that. And in this registry in the hospital, they thought with this type of implant, with a traditional straight stem, it was 4% peripatetic fracture. With a choroid type 0.8, and with Optimys 0.2. So there's a marked reduction in this registry from the problem of peripatetic fracture. Another thing is that we have a preserving of the soft tissues. If you look at the anatomy, you see there is the lateral insertion of the capsule of the hip joint. And we bring in this implant from intra-articular. So we are far away from the trochanteric accretion, and we don't risk having this fracture or partial fracture of the greater trochanter. Yeah. And if you look, I like this photo very much, or this graphic. If you see here, this is looking from above in the femur. This is for the CLS type, Zweimüller type. You see the big hole, and in osteoporotic situations, you will have a breakage of the dorsal part of the trochanter. If you use this twinsis type, you have shown, I've seen on your photos that you use a lot of twinsis, you make this hole. And for the Optimys short stem, you make this hole. So you don't alter the greater trochanter, and you even don't have to expose it during surgery. So it makes surgery easier. And we have made a lot of follow-up studies, and we had better clinical results even in the short term already compared to the straight stem. And I think one of the main reasons is that we don't alter the muscle insertions. Yeah. No exposure of the greater trochanter is necessary. This increases safety. And another thing we saw, it enables shorter operation time. So the average in a teaching hospital now is 43 minutes for a hip joint. For the senior surgeons, it's 35 minutes with the anterolateral approach. Yeah. Before we started with the clinical use, we made some studies. And one study was about the stability. And we used paired femorals, and we put in on the one side a traditional straight stem, on the other side an Optimys stem. You see how this is going deep like this is going deep like this. So you would think this is more stable. But the results, we used transducers, in the axial micromotion, no difference. But the rotational stability was higher with a short stem compared to the straight stem. And cyclic loading of 100,000 cyclic loading, the subsidence both subside a little bit, but the straight stem more than the short stem. And in the torsional, also in the tilting on this side, there was more stability of the short stem. So in summary, the short stem is a little bit more stable than the straight stem. So it's good for this new concept of rehabilitation. And we made this together with the University Hospital of Ulm. They have a big research center, and they published that, and they are thinking the 3D conical design makes this advantage. So So this fits very good to recovery protocol. We use for every patient get a booklet like this with 20 pages, and this should show it's like the Formula One. They come, they change the hip, and they go out. Yeah, so it's much the rehabilitation since then is more fast. So in average, we the people leave the hospital third day after surgery, but younger people also next day. Yeah. So what can we say about the Optimys short stem today? It enables an improvement in the reconstruction of the hip anatomy. Before we had the Optimys, every patient we planned at least 3 or 4 different stems. And one day, one of the youngest fellows said, Chief, we don't have to do it. Optimys fits in all cases. It's really like this. We rarely use another implant since then. Marked reduction in the intraoperative fractures. We have an improvement in the postoperative function, and the implantation is easier and shorter operation times. It enables a bone preservation concept technique. Christian Hein will speak about this now. And it's soft tissue preserving implant, and it fits to the rapid recovery concepts. So our Optimys is from many years now our standard implant. There are contraindications I mentioned already. For us, it's fractures that going a little bit further down and extreme osteoporosis. In these cases, we use cemented stems. Yeah. So if you look at our cementless stem implantation, 2017, but it remained the same, then we have 1,200 Optimys short stems and less than 20 straight stems. So straight stem now is very rare in our hospital. And now, shall I? Okay. Now this is one nice study from the Swiss registry. The Swiss registry is mandatory, so every surgery has to be reported. It's related to payment. If you don't report, you don't get money, so it's very easy. And the question we wanted to see in this registry is the revision rate of the Optimys short stem lower as the revision rate of a conventional straight stem. And to get no bias, then we compared 2 implants from the same company. Yeah? It's coverage more than 90%, and at that time 95,000 hips had been documented. And we compared the twins, and the twins is well known as the Korai, and it's used since 2001. And we compared it with the Optimys. And the Optimys first implantation was done by myself in 2010 in December, and the market release worse than in 2013. So made a lot of cases before it had a market release. Yeah. Yeah, market release was April 2013. And the hypothesis was that the Optimys short stem has a lower revision rate as the established straight stem. And these are the numbers. First thing you see that Switzerland changed very rapidly from the straight stem to the short stem. And secondly, if you look at the data here, you don't see any difference in gender, median age, and median weight. So these are really big numbers to compare. And what happened? These are all revisions: cup, inlay, head, and stem. And you see the total revision rate with the straight stem was 4%, with short stem was 2%. And you see also the dislocation rate is half. Periprosthetic fracture, tremendous reduction in frequency. And this is our registry data. You can't change them by yourself. Yeah? So this is the numbers of all hospitals in Switzerland. And we also looked at only when, to the stem revisions. They were half with the short stem compared to the straight stem. So the separity of the Optimys short stem is proven by the Swiss registry already during the learning curve, because this had been a new system and the other was an established system. We did personal training of more than 100 surgeons who went to our hospital at the one-day visit, and we instructed them how and gave some surgeries together. And so this is not only the Swiss registry, but Christian Hein will speak about this later on. So I finish my talk now because Christian Hein will make a special talk later on the registries. So I think you are next to speak, is it right? Maybe you announce him. Thank you very much.